Welcome if you dare. You've stepped into a world where shadows whisper, where every creak in the floor holds a secret. And tonight, you're about to hear a story that will haunt your dreams. Before we begin, make sure you're not alone, or you're ready to uncover what really happened in today's story. Don't forget to subscribe if you're brave enough, because what lurks in this channel is far more terrifying. Let's begin.
Deep in the mist-covered mountains, where the trees whispered secrets and the wind carried eerie laughter, stood an old, crumbling house. No one dared to go near it except for the children of the nearby village, who whispered stories about the crazy grandma who lived inside. Her name was Agatha, though no one remembered if that was her real name or just something the villagers made up. She was bent with age, her silver hair wild like a storm, and her eyes glowed with a strange, unsettling light. Some said she was a witch. Others swore she was just a lonely old woman who had lost her mind. But everyone agreed on one thing. If you entered her house, you might never come out. One cold autumn evening, a group of curious children, Liam, Sarah, and Noah, dared each other to step inside. The door creaked open, as if expecting them, and the smell of dust and something rotting filled the air. "Hello," Sarah called, her voice trembling. A cackle echoed from the shadows. "Visitors, oh, how lovely." The grandma appeared suddenly, her gnarled fingers clutching a rusted spoon. "Would you like some soup?" The children froze. The pot on the stove bubbled with a thick, black liquid, and something inside it moved. Liam backed away. "And no, thank you. Eat it," she screeched, her voice twisting into something inhuman. The walls trembled, and the children realized too late that the house wasn't just old. It was alive. The door slammed shut behind them, and the grandma smiled. But this is only the beginning, because in the mountains, the house never lets go. And the grandma, oh, she always wants more visitors. And maybe, just maybe, you'll hear her whispering your name. Next, the story never ends. It only waits. The children screamed as the walls pulsed like a living thing, the wood groaning as if the house itself were laughing. The grandma Agatha tilted her head, her grin stretching too wide, her yellow teeth sharp as splintered bone. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered, though her lips didn't move. The voice seemed to come from the floorboards, the ceiling, the very air. "But now that you're here, you'll stay for dinner." Noah lunged for the door, but it was gone, replaced by smooth, damp wood. Sarah's breath came in panicked gasps as shadows slithered along the walls, forming shapes that looked almost like hands. Liam, the bravest or most foolish, grabbed a rusted fireplace poker and swung it at Agatha. She caught it midair without touching it. The metal twisted, writhing like a snake, before clattering to the ground in a useless heap. "Silly child," she crooned. "The house protects me. The house feeds me." A wet, slurping sound came from the kitchen. The black soup in the pot bubbled violently, and a long, skeletal finger rose from the depths before sinking back down. Sarah gagged. "What is that?" Agatha's eyes gleamed. "The last ones who visited." The children backed into a corner as the floorboards creaked open, revealing a dark, gaping mouth of a cellar. A stench of decay and old blood wafted up. "Down you go," the house whispered through Agatha's voice. "Down where the others wait. The crazy grandma and the abandoned house in the mountain, the final feast. A recipe without." And the little girl's name was Leela. She knew she shouldn't open the window. She knew the stories. But the spoon kept tapping. Clink, 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 a sound that slithered into her ears and curled up inside her skull. And the smell, oh, the smell was impossible to resist. Like her mother's beef stew, like Christmas cookies. like the last meal her grandmother ever cooked before the sickness took her. Lilla's fingers touched the latch. The figures outside leaned closer, their breath fogging the glass in slow, rhythmic pulses. The tallest one, the one with too many joints in its fingers, pressed something against the window. A recipe card, yellowed with age, splattered with stains that might have been blood or broth. The handwritten words still perfectly legible. Family. STEW serves. The hungry dead and the living soon-to-be ingredients, 3 lost children. Fear tenderizes the meat. 1 stubborn old man for grit. 2 cups of broken promises. A handful of rusted spoons for flavor. Screams to taste. That last, desperate. Hope essential. Instructions. 1. Lure them in with nostalgia. 2. Let the house do the peeling. 3. Simmer until the screaming stops. 4. Serve in endless portions. Note, the more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. Lilla's mouth watered. Her stomach growled. And as the window creaked open, the tallest figure leaned in and whispered the last truth she would ever hear. We've been waiting for you to bring the next course. Outside, the mountain exhaled. The trees shivered in anticipation. And in the house that was never really abandoned, the great black pot bubbled happily, ready for its newest, most special ingredient, the actual final end unless you're still reading. In which case, listen closely. Do you hear the tapping? And then a crash, a shriek. The front door burst open. Standing in the moonlight was Old Man Harris, the village recluse, holding a flickering lantern and a shotgun. His face was grim. Agatha, he growled. I told you no more children. For the first time, the grandma looked afraid. The house moaned, the walls trembling, as if in pain. Harris raised his gun. This ends now. But Agatha only smiled again. Nothing ever ends here, Elijah. You know that, and the house lunged, to be continued. Because the mountain never forgets, and the hunger never stops. Run while you still can. The shotgun blast tore through the room, but the house absorbed it, the pellets sinking into the walls. Like teeth into flesh, the wound closed instantly, where it would knitting itself back together. Harris's eyes widened. Damn it, Agatha, he snarled. How many more souls do you need? The children huddled behind him, shaking. Sarah clutched Liam's arm, her nails digging in. W, what is she? Harris didn't answer. He didn't have to. The grandma's body twitched, her limbs jerking like a puppet on strings. The house groaned, and the shadows deepened, stretching toward them. The cellar door yawned wider, and from the darkness below came a sound thump. Thump. Thumped out like something climbing the stairs. Noah whimpered. We have to get out, but the front door slammed shut again. The windows melted into solid wood. The house was sealing itself. Agatha giggled, her voice splitting into 2. One hers, one something older. You shouldn't have come back, Elijah, she crooned. The house missed you. Harris's face paled. He grabbed the children and shoved them toward the fireplace. There's a way out through the chimney. Climb now. Liam hesitated. What about you? Harris turned, reloading the shotgun with shaking hands. I started this. I'll end it. The cellar stairs creaked. The thing was getting closer. The children scrambled up the soot-blackened bricks. Just as the grandma's laughter turned into a screech, Harris fired again, this time at the floor. The wood splintered, and for a second, the house screamed. Agatha lunged, her fingers elongating into gnarled claws crack. The chimney collapsed behind the children as they tumbled out onto the roof. The house shuddered, the entire mountain trembling beneath them. And then silence. Panting, the kids stared at the broken husk of the house. No movement, no laughter. Just the wind. But as they turned to run, Sarah froze. There, in the dirt, was Harris's lantern still lit dot and beside it a single, rusted spoon. The house is quiet now, but the mountain remembers. And hungry things always wake up again. The children ran until their lungs burned, never looking back at the ruined house. The village elders called them liars at first until they saw the soot-stained clothes, the scratches from the chimney, the way Noah wouldn't stop shaking. Old Man Harris was declared missing. But 3 nights later, Liam woke to a sound at his window. Tap, tap, tap. A rusted spoon dragged slowly across the glass. And when he looked there, she was Agatha. Her grin split her face like a rotten fruit, her eyes reflecting the moonlight in unnatural shades. Behind her, the trees bent as if bound to something unseen. "You forgot something," she whispered, though her lips never moved. Liam tried to scream, but his voice was gone. The air smelled like wet soil and that awful soup. And then the mountain groaned. From the darkness, shapes emerged. Figures, pale and hollow-eyed, their mouths stitched shut with black thread. The others who had entered the house before. The ones who never left. Agatha reached a bony hand toward the window. The house is lonely without guests. The glass cracked. Somewhere in the village, a dog howled. Then another. Then silence stopped by morning. Liam's bed was empty. Only the spoon remained on the sill. And high in the mountains, where the mist curled like grasping fingers, the house stood once more whole, waiting, its door creaking open in invitation. The village burned Liam's empty bed the next morning. They burned his clothes, his toys, even the curtains that had fluttered near the window that night. Salt was poured across doorsteps. Crosses were nailed above every threshold. But Sarah knew it wouldn't be enough, because when she looked in the mirror now, she saw them pale faces floating just behind her reflection, their stitched mouths straining to open. And that night, she heard it. Scritch, scratch, scritch, something dragging a spoon along the outside walls of her house. Noah disappeared 3 days after Liam. They found his shoes at the base of the mountain trail, filled with blackened bones that crumbled to dust when touched. Sarah was the last one left. She tried to run, packed her bag with trembling hands, took her father's hunting knife, and fled toward the valley road just as the sun dipped below the trees. But the mountain had other plans. The trail twisted back on itself. The trees leaned closer, and the wind carried a familiar, rotten sweet smell soup. The house stood before her, though she'd been walking away from it. Its door hung open, revealing a long dining table set with cracked plates. At the head of the table sat Agatha. To her left, Liam. To her right, Noah. Their faces were slack, their eyes milky white. Their mouths had been carefully unstitched, lips peeled back in permanent, hungry smiles. "We've been waiting," they said in unison. The front door slammed shut behind Sarah, and as the first course was served, a steaming bowl of thick, dark liquid, with things floating in it, the house sighed in contentment. Far below in the village, every mirror shattered at once. And in each shard of broken glass, a single word appeared in bloody scrawl. "Come, the invitation is open. Always." A year passed. The village elders swore the mountain was safe now. They pointed to the fresh wildflowers growing where the old house had stood. They showed travelers the new shrine built to honor the lost children. They lied. Because on the first night of winter, when the wind howled through the valley like a starving beast, the tapping began again. Tap, tap, tap. Not at windows this time. At doors. Every home heard it. Every bolt shook. And when brave souls peered through their keyholes, they saw the same terrible sight. 3 figures standing in the snow. Agatha, her spine now fused with the splintered remains of her rocking chair, carried like a grotesque throne. Liam and Noah, their skin stretched to tight over bones that clicked when they moved, holding rusted spoons that dripped black syrup. And behind them Sarah, her mouth stitched shut with the same black thread, her hollow eyes weeping thick, dark tears. In her arms she carried a steaming pot that smelled like rotting meat and copper. The village held its breath. Then the first door creaked open. The screaming lasted until dawn. When the sun rose, the mountain stood silent once more. The houses stood, empty, and in every kitchen a single place had been set, at each table a chipped bowl filled to the brim with cold, congealed soup dotted the edge of the village, where the trail to the mountain began. Fresh footprints led upward, too many to count, and high in the mist-shrouded peaks, where no birds sang and no animals dared roam, the house stood waiting bigger now, its walls pulsing with new life, its windows glowing with sinister warmth. The front door swung gently in the wind. Inside, something stirred the pot and hummed an off-key lullaby. No story ever truly ends. Some just change flavors. Last warning. Don't let them in. But it's already too late for warnings, isn't it? Decades later, hikers found the abandoned village. They marveled at the perfectly preserved homes, the still set tables, the strange, black stains on every doorstep. Their leader, a professor of folklore, laughed as he picked up one of the rusted spoons. Probably just some old ghost story, he said. That night, his student woke to the smell of burning herbs and something simmering. She followed the scent to the professor's cabin. The door was ajar. Inside, the professor stood perfectly still before a bubbling pot that hadn't been there before. His eyes were glazed over. His mouth moved silently, forming words that weren't his own. On the stove, the black soup thickened. Something inside it gurgled. The student fled, but not before seeing the shadows move along the walls, elongated figures, with stitched shut mouths reaching for her with bone-thin fingers. She made it 3 miles down the mountain trail before the fog rolled in. And there, standing in the middle of the path, was a little boy holding a spoon. His smile split his face. Too wide. Grandma says you'll taste better if you run, he whispered. Behind him, the trees began to laugh. The story grows. The hunger grows. Run if you want. It only makes the broth richer. Final end? Who are we kidding? The forest had changed. The student Emily realized this as she sprinted through trees that seemed to lean away from her, their bark pulsing like slow-beating hearts. The air grew thicker with each panicked breath, carrying the cloying scent of overripe apples and spoiled meat. Ahead, the trail forked. To the left, the empty ranger station. To the right, a warm yellow light glowing between the pines. A house that hadn't been on any map. Emily's legs moved without her consent, carrying her toward the light. The front porch sagged under the weight of countless hand-carved spoons dangling from the rafters, each one clattering softly as she passed. The door opened before she could knock. The interior was a grotesque parody of a grandmother's kitchen. Jars of pickled things that twitched lined the shelves. A massive cast-iron pot dominated the stone fireplace, its contents bubbling violently. And at the head of a banquet table sat Agatha, except now her flesh had grown into the very walls of the house, her silver hair merging with the cobwebs in the corners. "You're just in time for dinner," chorused the figures seated around the table. Emily recognized them all. The missing professor, his skin now translucent as rice paper. Liam and Noah, their bodies fused together at the shoulder like some terrible doll. Sarah, her stitched mouth now sewn permanently into a smile. And at the foot of the table a single empty chair with Emily's name carved into its back. Agatha lifted a ladle dripping with black broth. "Sit," commanded the house itself, its voice vibrating up through the floorboards. "All stories must end. All hunger must be fed." As Emily's body moved against her will toward the waiting chair, she noticed 2 terrifying details. First, the pot wasn't boiling from heat. The liquid moved because things were swimming in it. Second, the entire house was breathing. Some recipes take generations to perfect. Some families grow in unexpected ways. Welcome home, dear. The feast is just beginning. The chair embraced Emily like a lover as she sat. The wood groaned, shifting to mold perfectly against her trembling body. Agatha's grin widened, her teeth now blackened spikes, her tongue a writhing, segmented thing that tasted the air between them. The secret, she whispered, ladling thick broth into Emily's bowl, is in the first bite. The liquid moved on its own, shapes pressed against the surface from beneath fingers, teeth, and either blinked up at Emily before dissolving back into the murk dot around the table. The others leaned forward in unison. Their spoons scraped against chipped porcelain in perfect rhythm. Clink, clink, clink. A chant, a countdown. Emily's hands moved without permission, lifting the spoon to her lips. The broth smelled like her childhood home, like safety, like Lies Dades. The liquid touched her tongue. The house screamed in ecstasy. The mountain shuddered, and Emily finally understood. This was no punishment, this was a birth. Her throat burned as the broth slithered down. Her vision doubled, then tripled. The walls pulsed around her as new memories flooded her mind. Centuries of visitors, decades of feasts, the exquisite pain as her bones began to rearrange. Agatha clapped her gnarled hands. Look at our new sister, the others gasped as Emily's jaw unhinged with a wet crack, stretching impossibly wide. Her scream became laughter, became something far worse as her spine arched, her fingers lengthened. Her hair turned silver white outside. The trees bowed as the mountain exhaled. And deep in the cellar, where the darkest ingredients were kept, a new jar appeared on the shelf. The label read in shaky script, Emily, first batch, just right, the circle completes. The family grows. The hunger, oh, the hunger never stops. Emily, or what had been Emily, stood at the stove now. Her elongated fingers stirred the great black pot as new ingredients plopped in from the ceiling vents. The latest hikers screamed as they fell, their voices cutting off the moment they hit the bubbling surface. Agatha hummed approvingly from her throne of fused bones. Your broth is improving, child. The compliment made Emily's chest swell with pride, or perhaps that was just the parasites shifting beneath her ribs. Down in the village, rebuilt, repopulated, relentlessly forgetful, a little girl stared at her bedroom window. Tap, tap, tap. A rusted spoon danced across the glass. Behind it, 3 figures smiled with too many teeth. Liam, Note, and the thing that had once been Sarah. Its stitched mouth now split wide open to reveal a second, smaller mouth inside. The little girl reached for the window latch. Somewhere in the mountains, the house purred. The circle continues. The family grows. And the pod is always hungry. Last warning. Don't look at the spoon. But you already did, didn't you? The little girl's name was Leela. She knew she shouldn't open the window. She knew the stories. But the spoon kept tapping. Clink, 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 a sound that slithered into her ears and curled up inside her skull. And the smell, oh, the smell was impossible to resist. Like her mother's beef stew, like Christmas cookies, like the last meal her grandmother ever cooked before the sickness took her. Lila's fingers touched the latch. The figures outside leaned closer, their breath fogging the glass in slow, rhythmic pulses. The tallest one, the one with too many joints in its fingers, pressed something against the window. A recipe card, yellowed with age, splattered with stains that might have been blood or broth. The handwritten words still perfectly legible. Family. STEW serves. The hungry dead and the living soon-to-be ingredients. 3 lost children. Fear tenderizes the meat. 1 stubborn old man for grit. 2 cups of broken promises. A handful of rusted spoons for flavor. screams to taste. That last, desperate, hope essential, instructions. 1. Lure them in with nostalgia. 2. Let the house do the peeling. 3. Simmer until the screaming stops. 4. Serve in endless portions. Note, the more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. Lilla's mouth watered. Her stomach growled. And as the window creaked open, the tallest figure leaned in and whispered the last truth she would ever hear. We've been waiting for you to bring the next course. Outside, the mountain exhaled. The trees shivered in anticipation. And in the house that was never really abandoned, OT bubbled happily, ready for its newest, most special ingredient, the actual final end, unless you're still reading. In which case, listen closely. Do you hear the tapping